Hello Fuzz fans, and welcome to my tutorial on the Parcy Plundergas paper doll. And here is Parcy in all his glory, and his girdle, and his boxers. And we need to cut out Parcy so that we can put all his other fabulous outfits on. So today I'll be using a craft knife, also known as an X-Acto knife. You can use scissors. I have found that scissors, for me, it is difficult to get into all the little nooks and crannies, but if you have a good pair of scissors that works for you, that's great. If you are using a craft knife, underneath, what would help is having a mat. This is a healable cutting mat, so when you cut it, it kind of closes back up so that you can cut many, many times on it. And a nice sharp blade. If it's too dull, it can drag, or it might not cut all the way through this thick paper, and this paper is pretty thick, so you will need a nice sharp knife for that. All right, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do, like I said, is cut out Parcy himself, and I'm going to start by taking my knife and just following along these black outlines. This one has no tabs because it's the doll itself. The only important thing to keep in mind here is the base. And on the base, you'll see this little scissors icon. And also on the other part of the base over here, you'll see that as well. And these two things hook together to stand the Parcy Plundergas doll up. So what I tried to do was create a line that was the same here and here, and what you want to do is go ahead and cut that line right on that black line that I created there. Cut it there and cut it here, just so you don't forget. And when I cut these pieces out, I'll show you how they fit together and allow Parcy to stand up. So just a couple quick tips on using a craft knife as you're cutting. Take your time, go slow, keep your fingers out of the way of the blade, and if you get tired, take a break. And that's pretty much it. When you have a hard turn like this, you probably want to stop, readjust, and then continue going. And figure out, what direction is best to cut at. Now, when you have an easy turn, you can usually cut and turn at the same time and cut right along the line. If you're cutting through all the way, you can flip it over and you can check and see if what you're doing is working. You can see that so far it looks like it's pretty good. If you're not cutting through, you'll know that you need to put on a little bit more pressure on your cut. So I'm going to put this on fast forward. I'm going to cut out Parcy in the base, show you how that hooks together, and then I'll talk about some basics and some other little things that you might want to keep in mind as you put this doll together. Be right back. All right, folks, so here I have my Parcy Plundergas doll. Here I have the base. Wanted to show you, so this base, if you look, has that slot cut into it, as does the base attached to Parcy's feet. Now, what you want to do is just line those up and crisscross them together and, kind of gently push them into place. What you're trying to do is the pressure of being slid in between should hold it in place, and just press it until it's there. And go slow. You don't want to go too fast because you might rip the paper. And then you should have a nice crisscross, and that's going to allow Parcy to stand up. Parcy is one of my thinner characters, so you got to be careful that his legs don't bend. If they do, you might end up taping like a toothpick on the back. I mean, as he is now, he does stand up, as you can see. However, like I said, if you accidentally squish him or through use end up bending his legs, that's going to become a problem. So keep that in mind. Also, same thing with the base, right? Because it's longer and thinner, these can end up creasing. And I found that in my first one that I did, that if I wasn't careful, these would crease and they would get sort of wobbly, and that becomes a problem too. But as long as you're careful, I think things will work out well for you. All right, so I got Parcy, I got his base. He is ready for clothes. I have all these things to choose from. I'm gonna go ahead and cut some of these things out. I'm gonna cut out his armor here and his sword, so I can show you that's his most commonly seen wardrobe. In fact, I don't think you've seen the other wardrobe yet in the comic, so I'm going to show you that. And then after that, I have a couple things to show you on the mirror and the cloak outfit that are a little bit different. And then we'll talk about fitting all the other elements to him. With the armor, since that's what I'm going to do next, one thing I want to point out. So the tabs, first of all, you do not want to cut out the tabs anywhere, right? And then, so you cut around the tabs, always cut around the tabs. And then there's tabs here in the top of the armor. When you cut those with the armor, you want to cut all the way to where that black line stops. So it goes past the collar and it stops right here at the base of the collar. Same thing on this side, starts where the feather is, comes down to the base of the armor right there. Don't cut that line. And then it comes across here where that black line is, okay? You wanna make sure you cut all the way in, otherwise the tab isn't gonna fold the way you want it to fold. And I'll go ahead and do this one here right now too. Cut across, and then cut down. And this one, I wanna follow that line all the way, again, until it touches the armor right there, right where the shoulder and the armor meet. And that's gonna make the tabs be in the right spots. If you look down here, and this is for all of his outfits, you have it here on the bottom of the armor, here at the bottom of the ballet flats, and then here at the bottom of his shoes, there is the scissor icon. Now, for that, you can kind of look and see, you know, how much space you're gonna need to cut. But when you do cut, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut right here, you may wanna cut out just the thinnest little slot. That way it doesn't mess up when you're trying to push it onto the base, because there's a crisscross base that happens there. So what I do is I'm cutting out just a tiny sliver where it's gonna go. And you can, let me see if I can get rid of that. And if you can see that there, what I did was I cut out a little sliver. Whoops, there it is. And that sliver is going to allow it to hook onto the base right here where his feet are. Okay, so you could just cut a line. I've tried that. I like having just that little extra space, that way it doesn't get hung up. You can try it out with just a line first and see what you think. But again, you don't want to mess with this base too much because you could crush it or bend it or make it unusable. All right, so I'm going to put it on fast forward one more time. I'm going to cut out the armor and the sword. I'll show you that outfit, and then I'll go ahead and show you the rest of the outfits afterwards. Here we go. Okay, and so I'm about to cut out the sword, and I just wanted to point out on the sword, we have the same thing happening at the top of the armor. You've got these tabs. You just want to make sure that when you cut those tabs, you cut all the way down to the hilt. Otherwise, they're not going to bend quite the way that they ought to. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. And then this one's pretty easy. That one's pretty free. So that's one thing you want to keep in mind when you cut those tabs. All right, and back on fast forward. Okay, so I've got my sword here, and the armor here, and the Parcy Plundergas right there. So let's get this armor ready to get suited up. One of the things we got to do is bend these tabs. So when you bend tabs, you want to make sure that you hold the paper piece as close to the tab as possible, and then just give it a little press and make sure it's bending where you want it to bend. Usually it will, as long as you hold it next to where the bend needs to be. And so these are a little bit thin, so that I'm using my other finger and holding it here, and then it just bends right down. So I go ahead and I bend all the tabs to about 90 degrees. Here's another spot where you need to cut in on the tab so that it bends the right place. This one I didn't, so I better do that now. So it'll bend where I want it to. There we go. Bend that one. Bend that one. And down here. Bend it here. And bend it here. I have tried to score them. That means taking this and just making a slight cut so it bends exactly where I want it to, but usually the paper, because it's cut, the paper, you'll see part of the paper folded up where it was cut. So I don't like the way that looks. So I've been just bending carefully for these. And then the same thing here. Just want to bend carefully. Make sure you cut all the way through so that the tab can bend freely. And just bend those tabs back to about 90 degrees. All right, so we got the sword, we have the armor, and here's Parcy. Now, to put this on, and again, this is one of the nice things about cutting that slot in there. It should just slide right onto the base, where we don't have to worry about it pressing in and bending the base in a funny way. And then once that's in place, I just sort of make sure that these tabs go where they need to go. Just kind of press them into place. I got to get that underneath his hair. These two tabs have to go underneath his hair, so I'm bending that so that they can get under there. And then once I have that, just sort of make sure everything is angled and in. You might have to play with it just a little bit to make sure that everything can get where it needs to go. Let's see here. Press it down, and then once you have everything where they need to go, you can just give everything a press around, and that kind of sort of locks it in place, sort of. And there's Parcy. You can't really see him standing up, but that's what he looks like. And here is the sword. The way that the sword works is that these two tabs go up top. This tab goes around the other side, and there's the sword. And it's gonna fall if I lay it down flat, but that's what it looks like there. I found that actually if I just tuck the hilt just slightly underneath the feather, that gives it a nice, whoops, not that time. It usually gives it a nice solid holding, because sometimes you just have to tuck things so that they don't get out of whack there. So if he was standing up, I would just have it like that. And it's not perfect, you know, it has to kind of stay balanced. There's a lot of tabs there with that sword, and you can kind of see it from your viewpoint right now. You can see all those tabs that are overlapping each other. So you can also have him hold the sword like he's pointing it at somebody like this. I think that looks kind of funny, like he's challenging them to a duel. So that's another way that the sword will hold if you place it properly. And I think that's about it for the sword. See, there you go. Like he's pointing it at them. So now let's do a few of the other outfits. That's Parcy and his armor. And let's go over a few things with this. So before I cut everything else out, I just want to point out two more things. First thing is on the mirror. This tab, when you cut this tab right here, and I wasn't paying attention the first time I did this and I cut it out wrong, so I'm sure that if you don't know where you're supposed to go, you would do it too. You want to cut here the top, you want to cut here at the side, and you want to cut here at the other side. You want to leave it attached to the finger, okay? And that will allow the mirror to grip the right spots and not fall off. So that's the first thing. Just make sure that you cut that tab properly, otherwise the mirror won't work as well, or you'll be taping it back on that tab. And then the other one here, for this cloak outfit, and it says right here, cut from gold dot to create opening for head. So there's 2 dots here, here and here. And what you want to do is cut on that dot, start by pressing in, you know, cutting, and then cut straight across until you hit that other dot. And what that's going to do is that's going to be an opening for Parcy's head to come through. And I'm going to show you that here in just a second, because I already have this one cut out. But you want to make sure you cut that out. And you want to make sure when you cut the mirror out, you cut the mirror out properly with the right tab. So let me show you how the other outfits, or at least that outfit, fits on, and then I'm just going to show you some pictures of all the outfits fitting together. So let me take this one off. Let me get my cutout version of this cloak. Here it is. I'm going to make sure that, like I said before, just cutting out just a little sliver here makes it so much easier for it to attach to that base. So I like to just clear off a little space there so that it doesn't make a problem for the base. Then after I do that, now this is another tricky part, the head. So here is the cut, right, from the gold dot to the gold dot, right, and it creates a opening. Well, Parcy's head has to fit through that opening, and so when I do this, I need to kind of slide it through, and you want to wiggle it through until it fits, because it won't go straight through unless you make that opening a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be. But what I have found is you have to kind of wiggle it into place. Maybe I go this way. There it goes. Wiggle it into place, and then you'll be able to go through. So let's try that again. What you want to do is go in the top of his head on this side where my finger is. And again, you could make this opening bigger, but it will fit this way. Go in this way. So that right side of his head first, and then you can straighten him out once he gets through, press him through, and there he is. All his triple chin splendor. Once you have him through, you can put his feet across the base like that, and now you can bend those tabs, and if the tabs will bend, there they go. Notice that the tabs, once you use them a few times, they get a little floppy. And again, it's paper. I don't really know what else to do about that. If you have any advice, please email me, let me know. All right, and so there it is. That's it. That's him in his outfit. It basically covers all of him except for his head. I thought that was kind of funny. It's a little bit cheating on a paper doll, I know, but I think it looks great. All right, so that is the only other really complicated thing. Oh, you know what? Let me talk about his flute as well, because the flute can be a little tricky as well. There's only 2 tabs on the flute piece, and for those 2 tabs, they should go around his arm like this, or his hand like this, right? But usually if you just leave it alone, the pressure may or may not, see something, oops. Can't even see that, it's off screen. Let's try that again. So if it's just hooked like this, it may not balance properly. Nothing but trouble. So yeah, the flute might need a little help. So that's how it works usually. You can see without this piece, there's enough space for you to do this thing where you have one on the outside and one on the inside, and that pressure will hold it in place. So you can see how that flute works. works this way, may not be a good accessory with this piece. Unfortunately, sometimes they work with certain pieces, sometimes they don't work with other pieces. So with the ballerina costume, probably work better than with this one. All right, so I think that's it for showing you all of the nuances of the pieces. Everything, oh, well, let's do the ballerina one while we're here. Let me go ahead and cut out a sliver for Parcy's feet. So those would fit on. And so for this one, you want to put on the feet first. Oops, you want to put on the feet first because the legs will be covered by the tutu. Okay, so there's his stockings, they cover his knees, and this will overlap on top like this, because this piece is slightly longer and it goes underneath that piece. Okay, and so there is that outfit. And the flute, again, because it has just that hand by itself, it should work better as it folds up like that. And that's kind of how that hand is supposed to go. So flute works with some pieces, not with all the pieces. It is, and that's what it looks like from the side. It is fragile. Hopefully you guys can figure out a better way to make it stay. And again, if you do, please let me know. Would love to hear it. Okay, so I think that's it. That's just about all the outfits and all of the special situations. I hope you guys have fun with the paper doll, the Parcy Plundergas paper doll. He's one of the harder ones, clearly. But if you take a picture of it, please send it to fuzzyfieldscheese@gmail.com. fuzzyfieldscheese@gmail.com. That's my email. And I would love to see what you guys do with this. And I would love to see any suggestions that you have. So, hope you guys have fun. I will be posting a few pictures right after this video of all the other outfits and what they look like. And have a great day. See you later. Bye-bye.